When it opened in 1984, the AT&T Building stood in stark contrast to the boxy glass and metal towers that had engineered the Manhattan skyline since the 1950s. Today, the AT&T Building still stands as an icon for the postmodern architecture movement. It is regarded as the first postmodern skyscraper to ever be conceived. It was designed by one of the first duo that initiated the postmodern movement, Philippe Johnson and John Berge. Philippe Johnson had a stark reputation before he even started working on the AT&T Building. In fact, his reputation is one of the reasons he managed to land the job. AT&T wanted a tower that rivaled the stature of the bronze and glass Seagram building, but it wanted its new home to look markedly different. The chairman, Dibutz, asked for a dignified headquarters that wasn't a glass box, a building that would signal the next direction in architecture. He wanted a postmodern building, and Philippe Johnson was the man for the job. At the time, there wasn't an American city that hadn't had the name of Philippe Johnson on one of its buildings. He had made himself into a genuine celebrity, and he loved the feeling of being recognized. In this video, we will be discussing the postmodern era of architecture and how it came to be as a reaction of modernism. Before we begin, make sure you are subscribed to our channel if you would like to see us discussing such topics further, and we truly hope you would consider joining our Patreon to help us keep moving forward with our content. You could also benefit from lots of offers such as giving you a one-on-one lessons on animations and rendering. Click the link down below to know the details. And now, let us define postmodernism. Postmodernism is a movement that started as a response to modernism. It is an approach where artists abandon the idea that there should be a set of rules, a specific set of rules that engulf their designs, and encourage them to get creative and focus specifically on the design of their building, without putting any attentiveness in the style of the era they lived in or their surrounding environment. In postmodernism, only the building is what matters. Well, what makes architecture postmodern in the first place? Historicism. Many critics and architects thought that postmodern architecture brought back the vibes of pre-modern architecture. In the 1960s, especially in America, streets started to look alike, malls became a replicate of one another, and downtowns started to look the same. There was an absence of identity in the streets. Therefore, postmodernists aimed to restore the sense of a place. The obsession took its most vivid form in a work of pure urbanistic scenography. This can be demonstrated in the Piazza d'Italia in New Orleans, designed by postmodern architect Charles Moore, who wanted to provide the small Italian-American community of New Orleans with an architectural focus on ethnic identity. A piazza where its annual feast of Saint Joseph could be celebrated. He wanted them to feel a touch of home. And this is what postmodernism is all about, using historical figures and periods as an inspiration of present architecture, making people feel as if they are at home. Postmodernism is all about building a connection with the design and the people. Complexity and contradiction. Postmodern architects like Robert Venturi believed that less is not more, as Mies van der Rohe thought. Venturi in fact said that less is a bore. Postmodernism is a movement that didn't believe in simplicity at all. According to him, architecture itself should not be based on exclusion and restriction. Venturi believed that postmodern buildings are the path toward a new architecture. These last four words may ring a bell because, of course, they are the English title of what was the most influential book in 20th century architecture, Le Corbusier Towards a New Architecture. Le Corbusier is a highly known architect that focused his designs on an era that preceded postmodernism, modern architecture. If you would like to explore modern architecture, make sure to check our series of videos where we explained modernism according to Le Corbusier by clicking the card that popped on the screen right now, and of course click the link down in the description. Venturi's influence cannot be overestimated. Every important architect of the time has been affected by his thoughts. It is important to emphasize, however, that Venturi treated the modernists as blindly and unsympathetically as they had treated 19th century architects in their day. Venturi's designs, especially the important works of the early 1960s, such as the Guild House in Philadelphia, are characterized to be tense, nervous, and jumpy. These qualities were to become inherent to most postmodernist buildings by virtue of their foundation on the ideas formulated in Venturi's work. He believed that architecture should be hybrid and not pure. It should be inconsistent and not clear. It should trigger different reactions inside the viewer. And with every design being born, people should be surprised, and it should be something they didn't expect at all. And finally, Garish Symbolism. At the heart of postmodernism was conceptual art, which proposed that the meaning or purpose behind the making of the art was more important than the art itself. Before postmodernism, architecture was plain and simple. It went as far as the eyes saw it. There wasn't any deep meaning or symbols hidden in the parts the eyes don't see. Modern architecture didn't require much thought. It was just there to serve a purpose, such as housing or office work. And this is one of the major reasons why postmodernism came to be. Many architects believed that architecture should make people feel things. It should make them remember things. It should make them think and analyze. And this is why the architects that worked so hard to make postmodernism a dominant era added so much life, complexity, and mystery to their designs. Charles Moore, as mentioned earlier, with his Piazza d'Italia, where the symbols made people feel as if they really are in Italy, Venturi even described his building, the Guild House in Philadelphia, as a symbol of the aged who spent so much time on TV. And you might wonder, how and why did the shift towards postmodernism even took place? Before we answer your question, we found a course on Udemy that discusses postmodern architecture in a span of 16 lectures. It is highly recommended if you are interested in this style of architecture. The link is down below, and we also attached some of our favorite Udemy courses on Adobe After Effects and Illustrator, the programs we use to make these videos. So make sure to check those as well. We should note that those links are affiliates, so you wouldn't only be learning and growing your knowledge, you would also be helping us put out more content. As modernism started expanding, notable structures in major cities underwent extensive renovations. This often resulted in historic buildings being demolished and replaced with stilted versions that held little regard for the artistic characterizations of surrounding buildings. As we said earlier, it was just there to serve a physical purpose, not to initiate any emotions or thoughts in us. These modern buildings developed to become new postmodern structures that had an element of cohesiveness while still being able to make an impact. In other words, the buildings will serve the same function as the modernistic buildings, however, they are more creative and strayed from the rigid rules of modern ideals that dictated simplicity, abstraction, and simple shapes. Postmodernism remains problematic precisely because it poses difficult, vital questions for architecture that have never gone away. It does not fully integrate with its surroundings, as the architects rarely designed buildings to work cohesively with the nearby structures. This remained a reason that many refrained from celebrating postmodern work. However, the idea of what constituted acceptable design began to shift over time. Eventually, postmodernism began to take hold, and people loved the idea that they had buildings that seemed to be coming from the future. Even though lots of historical symbols are present in postmodern work, but people felt like they are celebrating the future with these structures. The shift in public opinion helped propel postmodernism into a widespread phenomena that everyone started to accept gradually. Postmodernism created an electric movement that fully represented the constantly changing landscape of today's modern world. We hope that you like this video. Make sure if you have any suggestions on an architecture style to comment down in the comments, and like this video and share it to spread the knowledge on postmodern architecture. And this is it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one.